Alright, let's work on some word problems. Question 1. A circular garden has a circumference of 30 meters. What is the length of a path going straight through its center? So we can make a rough diagram here of the garden in question. So pretend that's a perfect circle. The garden has a circumference of 30 meters. So what is the circumference? Well, the circumference is talking about the length going around the outside of the circle, right? It's the perimeter of a circle is another way to say it. That length is 30 meters. And the question is, what is the length of a path going straight through its center? So if you had a path going from here to here, for example, what would that length be? Well, we already know that the length going through the center of a circle is what we call the diameter. So I'll call that d for diameter. And so the question is, do we have an equation that represents the relationship between the circumference and the diameter? And yeah, we do. It's the circumference equation, right? You might see it written as c is equal to 2 pi r, right, where r is your radius. But of course, your radius times 2 is your diameter. So you could also write it like c is equal to d times pi. And that's also another common way that people will write it. So we want to figure out what the diameter is. So you can isolate for d by dividing both sides by pi and saying that c over pi is equal to d. Now all you have to do is plug in 30 for your c because that's your circumference, right? So 30 meters divided by pi is equal to d, your diameter. And if you do that math, your diameter is going to equal 9.55 meters approximately. So you can round off your answer like that. All right, let's look at another question here. So question 2 says you want to make $40 selling lemonade. It costs $10 in materials. So the whole operation for you to set up your lemonade stand and get your lemonade and water and everything is going to cost $10. You can sell one glass for $2. So every glass that you sell, you can get paid $2 for it. The question is, how many must you sell? How many glasses of lemonade must you sell? So we can think of it like this. Your profit, we'll call profit P, is going to be how much money you end up making. And remember, your goal was to make $40. Okay? So your profit is going to equal $2 for every glass of lemonade. So I'm going to say 2 times n, where n is the number of glasses of lemonade. So if n was 1, 1 times 2 is $2, so you get $2 for that glass. If you sell 2 glasses, 2 times 2 would be 4, so you'd make $4 by selling those 2 glasses. However, they also said that it costs $10 in materials for you to set this up. So your profit is going to be this number here, however much money you make by selling lemonade, minus $10, because you also have to spend $10 to set all this up, all your materials. So this is your profit equation, okay? And so because we want to make $40, that was our goal, I can swap out or substitute in 40 for my P. So I'm going to say 40 is equal to 2n minus 10, just like that. Now we can go ahead and isolate for n, because the question says how many must you sell? How many glasses of lemonade are you going to sell to meet this goal? Well, that's your n value, right? N is the number of glasses of lemonade that you're going to sell. So you can solve for n by isolating it. So I'm going to start by moving 10 to the other side. So 40 plus 10 is equal to 2n. So that's 50 equals 2n. And then divide both sides by 2. And you get 25 is equal to n. So your final answer is that you must sell 25 glasses of lemonade to reach your goal of making $40 in profit. So I'll even put the dollar sign there. Okay, let's go to the next one. So question 3 says your goal for a walkathon is 25 kilometers. So you're hoping you can walk 25 kilometers in this walkathon. You start at 9 a.m. and you walk at an average speed of 4 kilometers per hour. At 1:25 p.m., how much longer must you walk to meet your goal? Okay, so to figure this out, we have a lot of information, right? We have the time you start, 9 a.m. You have this time 1:15 that they're asking about, we know your goal was 25 kilometers, and we know the speed that you walk is 4 kilometers per hour. So that's a good amount of information. So I think first we should figure out between 9 a.m. and 1:15 p.m. how much time is that passes by, right? So 1:15 p.m. minus 9 a.m. Now I say minus, we're not just going to subtract these numbers the way we normally subtract numbers. We have to figure out how much time that is between these two, right? And so if you think from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's an hour, to 11 a.m., that's another hour, to 12 p.m., right, noon, that's going to be 3 hours, and then to 1 p.m., that's 4 hours. So we're at least 4 hours, right? Because from 9 to 1, that's going to be 4 hours. And then 15 minutes, we go another 15 minutes. Well, 15 minutes, that's a quarter of an hour, right? 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. So what I have here is 4.25 hours. That's how long you're walking at 1:15 p.m. So that's the first thing you have to determine. Now, we also know that your average speed that you walk is 4 kilometers per hour. So if I have the amount of hours I've been walking, and I know how fast I can walk, can't I figure out with those two pieces of information how far I have walked in that time, right? Let's set it up this way. So I have 4 kilometers per hour. That's my speed. I can multiply that by 4.25 hours, right? And the reason I know to multiply these together to get my distance is because with hours on the bottom and hours on the top, those units are going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to be left with kilometers, and that's what I want for my answer, right? I want my final answer in kilometers because that's the distance I walked. So 4 times 4.25, that's going to give me 17 kilometers. That's my answer, right? Because those h's, those hours cancel, and I'm left with the distance I walked. So I walked 17 kilometers in that first stretch of time that we're talking about. So the question is, how many more kilometers do I have left? Well, remember, your goal was 25 kilometers. So 25 kilometers minus the 17 kilometers I already walked is going to be 8 kilometers. So I have 8 kilometers remaining that I have to walk. And so to figure out how much time it's going to take to walk those 8 kilometers, I can say 8 kilometers divided by 4 kilometers per hour. Right? You divide the distance by the speed because then the kilometers cancel. And when you divide by a fraction with h on the bottom, if you remember our work with fractions, that h is going to come back to the top. If you remember those fraction lessons we did where you divide by a fraction. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and the unit is going to be hours. So it's going to take us another 2 hours to reach our goal of 25 kilometers.